guys, and welcome to the All Gunners podcast featuring myself, Harry Carnu, and my regular co-host who joins us every week when recording this, Zed the Man. Zed, how are you?
Hey Harry, I'm alright, man. Keeping well. How are you?
Good. You realise there I just added something onto your name there. Not that you've ever known. I sort of spontaneously brought that Zed the Man, and it's only because I'm in a good mood today because Arsenal won today. But otherwise, it would have been welcome to Zed as usual. It's going to be done.
No, I like the enthusiasm, right? We've won a game. I will talk about the game, but I like the enthusiasm.
And listen, we've got to, our listeners might be saying these tossers talked about getting Paul from Wales on as a first Welsh gooner.
Yes.
I have to say, I mean, look, I think we've got to rename Paul. We did briefly talk about his technological issues, but I want to go. Let's call Paul 28.8 after the modem speed back in the day because that's the problem. He's not getting a fast enough connection out in Wales, is he, at the moment? So Paul 28.8, if you're listening. We are sorry we couldn't get you on. You still got technology issues, but one day when they do upgrade the valleys with some fiber broadband or something, we may get you on.
Mate, we're looking forward to talking to you and meeting you and talking
But
about Arsenal.
yes,
But
and I've got to say that Paul has been very gracious though in the Danny AFC TV chats. He said that look, has thank you very much for inviting me. I will be with you as soon as physically possible. So big shout out
absolutely.
to
Big shout
Paul
out to Paul.
Robinson, 28.8. So let's move on. Let's get on to today's main news, Zed.
Yes.
There's a lovely thing about recording on the same day as matches,
Yes, it is.
and we did talk briefly about this, but in our prep, didn't we? We said that, gosh, wouldn't be different if we actually lost, but we don't know what losing feels like at the moment, do we? Since we started
Oh,
this,
ho.
oh no,
Big
I
things there.
hope, oh no, I shouldn't jinx us. But look, most of our pods we've been on the end of wins. So
So far,
how
so far.
ecstatic are you? How ecstatic are you after that?
Mate, I'm very happy of on the run that we're on, getting points, winning games, right? I think that's 4 wins on the trot now.
Yeah, yeah,
Two
yeah,
against Wolves as well, counting in, doing the
correct.
double over them, and then a, a game at Vicarage Road, which in recent time has always felt a bit more nerve-wracking than it should. I mean,
Mm.
we all go back to Troy Deeney calling out the Arsenal
The
players a couple of
cojones,
years, the cojones,
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah. So calling us out. So every time we beat them now, it kind of goes back to that and say, yes, we do, yes, we do,
Well, do you know
right?
what? That's not a bad starting point for comparison because actually,
Mhm.
we're going to theme this, aren't we? We are going to
Yes,
sort of
yeah,
link this, aren't we, to
yes, of course, yeah.
where we are compared to where we were. And
Where
I
we
think
were,
that's
yeah,
a brilliant point that you've picked up on that one in
yeah.
terms of Troy Deeney's comments. We were dreadful
We were
when and I
absolutely
actually found
piss
myself
poor,
agreeing with him.
essentially.
I agreed with him actually at that point.
I did as well. I did as
Yeah,
well. To be fair.
yeah, yeah.
It wasn't good. I think the team, he was bang on the money when he said the Arsenal players just didn't look up for it. There was a weak spine. The team wasn't together. It was just individual players trying to do their bit, some running, others not running. And it was just a scared team, which is now
Dreadful.
completely, and I'm very happy to say this, completely different. This Arsenal team has a spine about itself. They are playing for each other. They're playing for the manager, and there's a very good togetherness in the group. And you have to remember, this is the youngest team in the Premier League,
Yeah,
right? And to have that kind of what you call resolve and have that kind of team spirit, it only bodes well for the future. I think we all saw that in the win against Wolves, which we talked about in the last podcast. So go check that one out,
yeah,
episode 6. So I think for today's game as well, overall, if you were to ask me what I felt about the game, I think the game was Arsenal played well. There were moments where they were playing some beautiful football, and we'll
agree.
break down the goals a bit later on. But overall, I think Arsenal played well. They deserved to win, but it just seemed like to me today, and I know you're going to counter me on this, but to me, it seemed like they were a bit taking it way too easy on Watford. They just seemed like, oh, it's Watford, we've got this. And I'm going to bring on some couple of points when we talk about Ramsdale and White's performance and the goals that Watford scored. But mate, what did you think of the game overall?
Yeah, I think, I mean, when you look at this statistically, you'll always say, "Gosh, it sounds like a really close game, 3-2,"
Yeah.
but it wasn't so close. To be fair, I'd
No,
probably
no.
would agree with you that Arsenal took their foot off the gas in areas where they shouldn't have.
Hmm.
And I think the difference. They talked about that every game's a cup final now.
Yes.
Um, for me, can't take anything away. There were glimpses of, and even actually the commentators were saying in areas that Arsenal are playing some of their best football all season. When
They
you're
are. They
talking
are.
about, well, where are we? We're in March now.
March, yeah.
That's these are generally the times where teams, generally us, because we tend to be in more than one competition than one, um, start to tire, and it's all about getting the result. But actually,
Yes.
I saw a team that was fresh, full of ideas, and what I was really pleased with,
Hmm.
and this is my counter to your slight pessimism, which I deduced from your voice, where
Yes.
where 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 I was pleased is that in the earlier Arteta renaissance, when
Hmm.
actually he was starting to get us victories, the football was really poor, and it was mostly 1-nils, and it was sometimes quite lucky.
Hmm.
I was actually really convinced by the football today.
Yep.
I think there was some. I think this is the kind of football that if you asked Arteta and maybe asked him truthfully, is this your idea? Is this the kind of football that
Football you
you
want to play, yeah.
you want Arsenal to play? I think he'll say, he'll probably still say, we're not quite there yet. He often does,
Hmm.
but I think for me, there's an identity there. There's a willingness to move the ball. Our listeners might blast me for saying this, but I could see. I could see honestly, because we're going to get onto this later as well, the
Yeah.
Manchester derby. But I saw some characteristics of Pep there in some of our play today. The
Yeah.
triangles, the way the ball moves up the pitch, the players involved, the pressing from the front.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think when we look at that score, and we see it sort of at the end of the game, and it looks closer than it was. But the last thing that I will say on it, for me, which I think was good, is that when they did score that second goal,
Hmm.
Watford, we've seen Arsenal of old, and this is where we talk about the cojones. We
Yes.
we have witnessed our team lose it mentally, but
Yes.
actually, again, Manchester City esque. They really, really managed the end of that game well. I
Hmm.
believe Arteta in the last few minutes brought on Rob Holding
Yes.
just to shore things up, and I believe he won one actually key duel where he blasted the ball away, but it just needed to be put away. So I think tactically, the way our football is going and the way our game management is going, mostly, I
Hmm.
was overall impressed. However, I would have liked us not to have conceded more than that one goal, and that's just a
Yeah.
little dot on the mark sheet, a little negative. But listen, these days, Zed, it's all about the 3 points,
It
and we
is.
got
It
three
is.
points, and we're back in the top four.
It is. It is about the 3 points, and we are back in the top four, so which is very, very encouraging signs, and that's what's showing the progress and Arteta's what's the believe in the process. So yeah, it is
Yeah, something
with
like that.
something like
Yeah,
that, right? I
yeah.
think the only thing I will say, and again being the pessimist I am, I don't know, I'm in the pessimistic mood today, but it just
Hmm.
seems like, right, we are in pole position to do this because we have one game a week, no other competition where all the teams around us are tiring. Right,
Yeah.
Watford not being one of them, but they're in a relegation battle, so they should be more up for it. But yeah, I agree with you on the overall game. So listen, mate, the goals. We have to talk about the goals today.
Let's
Five
do it.
goals,
Let's do it. Let's
right?
do it. Yeah.
And some beautiful, beautiful goals. Let's talk about the first one, Martin Odegaard. Did he mean that pass, the back
I
heel?
think he did. I think he did. And the more and more I see of Odegaard is more the Özil that we always wanted. Again, big comparisons, but just the way his work off the ball is,
Mhm.
and the way he is now beginning to run games.
He is,
And
he is.
he's forming a beautiful partnership, isn't he, with Saka, which is obviously that first goal that you want to talk about. But go on,
Yes.
you tell us, Ed, talk us through that goal. I think he did mean it, but
Yeah.
you tell me what your view of that goal was.
Yeah. Look, I think it's a good build up, right? It's a very good build up, and it's that triangle that we talk about again,
Mm.
and they play that triangle and
Did he
that
start
ball.
from White? did it, Zed? Remind me, did it start with Ben White playing the ball out wide? I think because often on that
Yeah,
side it's White.
yeah. I think so. It's well, Ben White gets it, and then Gabriel gets it, right? So I think it's
Yeah,
Ben White who plays the ball to Cedric, and then Cedric plays it to Saka, Saka to Odegaard, Odegaard to Saka again. When they
yeah,
do this, which is very good. So again, we'll touch on Cedric being how good it is, but and then Odegaard just passes it, curls it beautifully
yeah.
into
You
that
are right, by the way, because
corner, right?
I've just got the game on in front of me.
Ah, okay.
It was Ben White
Ben White,
to Cedric in that
Cedric,
sort of
yeah,
inside right back position that you always
yes,
talk about, and
yeah.
then over to Saka, and then obviously the rest, as you say. Yeah, brilliant goal, wasn't it?
Brilliant goal. I think I like. Okay, fine. I'm still to be convinced that he actually meant that, but if he did, bloody hell, that's a good ball, right? The
Yeah,
way he turns it, it does seem like he means it, but even more than that, it's the calm and collected finish. He just takes it on his left foot, and we know
yeah.
how good he is on the
I mean,
left foot. And
I've
just
just replayed it, said
yeah,
again. I think he
and it's
meant it.
beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I'll concede. I'll concede there, right?
The
But
run into the box, and
yeah,
you've got to remember Saka. He's got two great feet, hasn't he? The way that
yes, he has.
he puts that ball back in with his right foot, it's quite easy, isn't it? When you think about sort of the fullback, he's always going to be expecting Saka to cut in so that he
Yep.
can do something on his left foot, but actually. It was all about that right-footedness that just took the fullback out, really.
Yeah.
Brilliant goal. Brilliant goal. It
Brilliant goal.
reminds me of the goal versus Leicester.
Leicester
Özil,
for
remember
Ozil.
when he had the yeah, yeah,
I was about to bring that on as well. Yeah, I
yeah,
think uh, I think Odegaard finally means it or not means it, but it's a brilliant bit of skill. Whether he gets lucky or not, let's leave that. But the finish is class, and Saka
yeah,
again being involved, and more importantly, Cedric. He's
yeah.
showing himself to be very, very capable, and he's got a run of games under his belt, and he's showing his
We're not missing
qualities.
Tomiyasu, are we? Too much?
No, no, we're not. And that's, you know what the thing is? That's what Arteta wanted, the competition for
Yeah,
places. You don't automatically come back into it. Once you lose
yeah,
your place, it's not easy to come back into it.
yeah, yeah,
But all
yeah.
right, mate, let's get on to the second
Goal.
goal of the game.
Well, are we covering their goals as well, or just
Do you
our
know what?
goals? Because
I am because
yeah,
it was a freaking ridiculous goal. Right.
yeah, it
I
was
have to
amazing.
give credit.
World
I have to
class.
give
Yeah.
world class. I have to give credit to Cucho Hernandez, right? I mean, that is literally making something out of nothing.
Do you think our defending was a bit poor on that goal, Zed?
No, no, I don't think. I think it's just making something out of nothing. It's they don't expect
Mm.
him to do that, right? I think.
I think the way the cross comes in though, he just little dink down the line. I think, we could. Who was supposed to be tracking that runner?
Well, I think
If
the
I had to
overlap.
criticise,
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah.
overlap, yeah,
The overlap gets caught out, and I think no. Yes, I get it. The defenders should be getting their head to it, right? I think it's Ben White in there who should be getting, but the ball is
can't
behind
take
them.
anything away from the
They
finish
can't
though.
take. They
No,
can't take.
no,
I think I don't look for me. That's Cucho Hernandez making something out of absolutely nothing.
yeah,
There was nothing in there. It's a normal ball in the box, and if the ball is, if he tries anything else, tries to control it or even tries to header it, a
yeah.
defender gets there first. But it
Oh
literally
no,
takes,
no,
yeah,
this is all he could do, and he did it class.
he did it wonderfully. You know what? It looks great when it comes off. When it doesn't come off, it looks a bit silly, but it came off, and it's a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful goal. You have to give credit where credit is due, and this was one of those.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
great. I mean, I agree with you. I can't. I think you've put that very eloquently. It was a world class finish.
yeah,
He couldn't. That's all he could do with it, and he executed it perfectly. I would
yeah.
agree. Right, goal number
Goal
three
number
in the
three.
game, but number
Yep.
two for Arsenal. Um,
Saka.
Saka again involved, and I think for me, I've got to just mention that
Yep.
this is one of Saka's games of the season. To be honest with you,
It
because
is. He was very influential.
we've talked about this in previous pods in terms of how tired he may be, and
Yep.
actually I think others have in other pods have talked about potentially giving Saka a rest and
Hmm.
maybe bringing Pepe on, but he didn't. Did he? Arteta we went for exactly
No,
the
no.
same team, and Saka involved again in that sort of build up and the finish. Talk to us about that then, Zed.
Yeah. So I think it's very poor from Watford. I think it's very poor. I mean, they just their centre forward is essentially in their defensive third. So when
Mm.
I think it's Imran Lusa, I'm not sure. I don't remember now who's got the ball, but he's got no option to pass the ball, and he hesitates for a second, and that's where Arteta ball comes into play, and Saka's already on him. As soon as he receives the ball, Saka's on him because
Yeah.
Odegaard's off on the wide, giving that width, so the defender and the fullback has to stay with him, right?
Mm.
That allows Saka to get the ball, and then what a play that is by Laka. Again,
Tell me about that assist from
that is
Lacazette.
a, it's the awareness, and you know what? This is what he brings to the team. Everyone may say, "Oh, he's the number 9. He's not scoring goals or whatever."
Yeah.
Sorry, pop. Just excuse the accent, but whatever I'm trying to do. But you know what? That's his important to the game. That's his
Yeah.
important to the team. It's the when he drops and then he makes that run. Defenders have to go to him. He's the number 9. They
Yeah.
have to try to block him, and he just takes that one touch, back seals it, and what a finish again
And
it is
isn't
by
it
Saka.
brilliant how just as Saka, just as Odegaard ran into the box off Saka's assist for the first goal,
Yeah.
but isn't it brilliant how Saka continues his run as well because he just
Yes.
knows Lacazette's going
He
to give it
knows.
him.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing, isn't it? That's the chemistry that we've been talking about.
And what
And he's
about giving the keeper the eyes though? Wasn't that
oh, that was good.
amazing?
It was amazing. I think Ben Foster just completely wrong-footed. He just gives him the eye, saying, "Yep,
Yeah.
that's where I'm going," but just completely does him. I feel sorry for Foster there. I'm like, just it's nearly top bins there in that goal, and it's just
Yeah, yeah. Foster
it's
seems a
it's
nice guy to be fair, but
he is.
he got done there, didn't he?
Yeah. You know what? If we ever manage to get Ben Foster on this podcast, I know he does his own podcast, which I watch,
He
right?
does.
I would want to talk to him about this one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Right.
mean, he was nowhere near that one, that Saka finish, was
No,
he?
no, no. To be fair, it's nothing he can do about it. He just Saka just completely looks at him, gives him the eyes, and goes the other way, and Foster's just completely wrong-footed. Uh, one final thing I'll say is Saka needs to stop planning his celebrations a bit. I think he just ran out of ideas by the time he
Yeah,
ran to the
yeah, yeah,
touchline. He's like,
yeah,
"Here you
yeah.
go, I've scored a goal." I'm like, "Come on, man, you could do
So
better."
before we get on to goal
Martinelli's.
number, yeah, let's just quickly touch Zed on Saka's future.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
I mean, I know that there's talk about giving him a new contract and whatnot.
Yeah.
Do you think that we should be offering him a new contract, Zed, just to keep the prowlers away because they will be there soon if they're not there
Hmm.
already?
Hmm. I think so. Let's just break it down and say, just get one thing clear, which is this is Saka's best season
Yeah,
for Arsenal, right? For goals and assists, I think he's got 9 goals and 4 assists,
yeah,
right? Right. So he is an absolute monster right now. So he
yes,
is the best player. Everything is going
yeah, yeah.
through him
Well,
right now.
they said, didn't they? Where are the goals going to come from, and where have
Yep,
they come from since
it's come from Saka.
December since Aubameyang has been dropped?
Yep.
What was his last game? Was it against Everton? Did he come on as a sub, Aubameyang? The
Yeah,
game
yeah,
that we
December.
lost
I
against,
think
yeah.
yeah, December.
So we're three
Yeah,
months since then.
yep.
We've lost one, and that was to
We've
Man
lost one.
City, and
Yep,
drawn one to Burnley,
yep.
and we've won all of the remainder games. We were knocked out of the cup, but obviously that's a different sort of subject at the moment. But yes, the goals have been scored from a mixture of Saka,
Hmm.
Smith Rowe. I
Yep.
think there might have been a Lacazette penalty in there at some point.
Odegaard as well.
Odegaard has chipped
He's
in
got
one or
goals in.
two,
Yep.
and I think I want to say Party, but I don't think Party has scored in that run in particular. Anyway,
No, I don't
oh,
think he did that
Gabriel's
run.
chipped in with a couple as well. I think, yeah.
Martinelli
Uh,
has chipped in with a
and
lot.
Martinelli, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where the goals are coming in. But yeah, focus on Saka for a second, Zed. New contract, bumper contract, 100 grand a week.
I don't know about 100 grand a week. I think he's on 30K right now,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So his output right now definitely deserves more than
yeah.
I think his contract is 4 years when he signed it. I think there's
Yes,
still
it
two
was.
years
Yeah,
left.
2 years
Um,
left. Yeah,
2 years left on his contract, right? So I think when it starts to get to 2 years, especially for a player of his quality at the age of 20, you should be rushing to get that extension signed. three
yeah,
year extension, make a 5 year long term contract, three
yeah,
year, and you know what? Double his wage, 60K, 70K, that's good enough. I think 100K, when you start to upset your this is now me purely talking financial situation here.
yeah,
You start to
yeah,
upset the apple cart, right? You've got
yeah,
other players like Smith Rowe, who's recently signed a new contract. You've got Martinelli, similar age. They're doing great things. And Smith Rowe, remember, he's the joint top scorer now with
Yeah,
Saka,
yeah. I hear you.
right?
I hear you.
So,
I hear you.
so you don't want to upset the apple cart too much. You have
Yeah,
a pay system and a wage structure that you have to stick to, but
yeah.
definitely doubling the money you're giving him 60K a week, which is a stupid amount of money from a normal person's point of view, by the
Of
way.
course it is. Of
All
course
right.
it is.
But with 2 years left, if you're asking me, should Saka have a contract extension? Absolutely bloody yes. At the end of the season, Arteta and Edu need to sit down with him, put their arms around him and say, "Boy, sign the contract. You are an Arsenal star."
And I'm sure he will. And I'm sure he will.
Absolutely,
Right,
absolutely.
goal number 3.
Yes,
Um,
Gabby
uh, our
Martinelli,
guy, my
our guy,
brother,
your
Gabriel
guy.
Martinelli. Again, Lacazette involved in the play there. Um,
Not just Laka, Odegaard as
yeah,
well. Again, that
Odegaard
touch
as well, and the
to
touch
Laka.
over him to Lacazette. And I think we've got to shout out the gaffer here, haven't we? Because it was that fast throw, wasn't it? It was that
Ye-
move the play quickly. It was the throw,
yes,
the very fast throw that actually caught Watford
Watford off guard.
sort of off guard. Talk
Yeah,
us through that one.
mate. First thing I like to say is that's Arteta's first assist in 8 years, as I said on the commentary. I'm literally just taking this from the commentators, right? But that is
Yeah,
Arteta's first assist since 8 years. 8 years, just letting it know.
yeah, he
But yeah,
definitely helped, didn't he? Yeah,
yeah, and it's a quick throw, good throw. Odegaard just chips Watford player, gives it to Lacazette, who just one touches it. He knows Martinelli where he is, and Martinelli. We've talked about his finishing ability, and this one time just puts a top bins. Foster can't do anything. Again, poor
yeah.
guy. It's a great finish. He's
But
just stood
we've
still. Can't do anything.
we've rarely seen Martinelli in those central areas, and it's actually, isn't it interesting to think about what lethal, what he could do,
Hmm.
um, if he was a little bit more in those central areas, maybe playing as a second striker, 4-4-2,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. It just, oh, his shot was devastating, wasn't it?
We know this guy can finish. We know this guy has the finishing ability. I think he's probably. I would put Pepe as the top finisher at Arsenal right now, and I think Martinelli is
But
close
but
second.
this chap can finish.
This chap,
Yes.
this kid can finish,
Yeah.
right? And I think he is by far the second best finisher in the Arsenal squad right now,
Mm.
ahead of Laka, ahead of Saka, ahead of Smith Rowe, Odegaard, all of these guys. He is the second best finisher for me personally, because I still
Yeah.
think Pepe is a better finisher.
Yeah, I'd agree
Right.
with you.
Yeah.
I'd agree with
Right.
you.
So, and it's a class strike again. Very good build up, quick, and I think that's what I like about Arsenal team of the in the recent game, which is they're not
Yeah. Yeah.
taking their time. First, it
Yeah.
was back,
Yeah.
find a pass, then circle the possession, then go back,
And
lose it, and then try to
absolutely.
regain it. Now it's quick.
Absolutely. And if anyone's wondering what I've been screaming mad about in the last few pods, and regularly giving props to Lacazette, even though he's
Mm,
only scored 5 goals all season, is that goal epitomizes exactly how we are playing and wanting to play at the moment going forward. It is all about that year 11 boy saying,
mm,
kids, come up to me, I'll supply you with the whatever, right?
yeah,
Here's the service, you finish the dinner, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's literally what is going on here. Is the ball comes in, Lacazette has got the strength to hold it up, but take nothing away. That touch was not easy. That
No, no, no,
touch,
no. It's the
bringing
cushion.
bring yeah, the cushion down, bringing that ball down for Martinelli, the awareness to know that he's there ready to shoot, was class.
It was class, yeah, absolutely. Gets out the way as well. Just gets out the way, and he knows what Martinelli is capable of.
And
These guys train day in day
this
out,
is what the
right?
team are drilled to do now. This is
Yeah,
exactly what the
absolutely.
team is to do. Is that he's there for the hold up play, for the sort of, it's almost false nine esque, isn't it? As we've said in previous
Not
pods.
not false
Yeah.
nice. Yes, it
It's,
is false. He literally drops into the midfield and
yeah.
makes that
Yeah.
double attacking midfield pivot
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
what you call Odegaard,
I'm
right?
still
And
going to predict between now and the end of the season. I think Lacazette will go into double figures. I think
for
he'll score,
goals.
whether it's penalties or whatever. But I mean, I'd love to know how many assists he's on. He must be on quite a few assists this season.
Oh,
7 or
that's
8
not
at least.
that's one stat that you're asking me that I don't have now. That's the first
Yeah,
time
yeah,
that's
yeah.
happened now.
You see, I told you I'm spontaneous. Yeah, um, but yeah, no, I think Lacazette's role in that is immense. He drops into the right areas,
Yeah,
and he's in the box, which is all we can ask for, isn't it? Really, and
yeah,
like I say, look, for me personally, I can't care who scores the goals as long as we score them. You know,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
and that's what it boils down to. I think we before you pull out that Lacazette stat, we need to then talk about the sloppy goal that was
Ah,
then given
yes,
away,
yes,
which could
yes,
have
we do.
made the afternoon quite uncomfortable. Zed,
Absolutely. I think it's something that I said early on. It was very so. I wasn't very impressed with Ramsdale. By the way, before I say this, I'm not
mm,
saying Ramsdale's been bad. He has been absolute class, and he has been the difference maker for Arsenal this season. He's an absolute
yeah,
class keeper, but he just wasn't at the races today. He just
he's
seemed
human
like,
though, isn't he? He's
well,
human. You can't
of
expect him
course,
to have a
no,
good
no.
game every. I mean, I've been uh, raving mad at he should be starting for England now. I
Well,
mean,
he should be.
that
He's better
fraud
than,
from Everton who's going through relegation battle right now.
yeah,
If he's wearing the number one spot come the World Cup,
the World Cup. Yeah,
I mean I don't know what's going wrong with Southgate if that's the case. Ramsdale should be number. I know he probably
and
didn't
yet
have.
he will be Pickford.
It probably will be the fraud. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think he had the best of, and he probably should have saved that last shot, that goal that
And
they scored.
I think there is a mistake from Ramsdale there, but I would put more of a blame on Ben White there. I think
Ben
Ben
White was,
White,
yeah, yeah.
Xhaka being Xhaka as always, sometimes goes to sleep,
Yeah,
and then
well, he literally left it, didn't he, Jacka? He
he
actually
left
left
it.
it for someone else. I mean, that was quite poor for me.
Yeah, and that's we know Xhaka does that, right? That's just basically what his key thing is. He lets it go sometimes,
Yeah,
right? But I think the key point is between Ben White and Ramsdale, something happened that we haven't seen for a while in the Arsenal defense, which is there was a bit of a lack of communication, whether Ramsdale was going to come, whether Ben White just jumps too soon and Sissoko gets lucky. And it's a good finish. Look, Sissoko doesn't score many, right?
no.
But it's a good finish and it leads to a nervy end, and that is the poor part. But
What
there's,
upset me is a former
yeah.
Tottenham player scored against us. But
Oh
anyway,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's just I think there was a moment in the second half where Ramsdale was literally miles from his what you call goal, and he had a very poor clearance and distribution. His
And
distribution was
it went straight to the other side. You're
it
right
went
about his
yeah.
distribution, actually. Yeah, I know what you're
Yeah,
about to say. His distribution in his first few games. I mean, some of the pinging passes that he would. It's slightly declined, hasn't it?
it has, and I think it's not declined. I think it was just wasn't at it today. I think he was just taking he was too relaxed. His body
Do you
language,
remember some of the balls that he was putting in the
Oh,
earlier
I
part of
do.
the season,
I think just go back to the Leicester game, you'll see it.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, he's not doing that as much as he was.
No, I think because Arsenal are building more from the back now, right?
Mm,
There's much more emphasis on Ben White and on Gabriel to just drive with the ball or pick the pass, right?
yeah,
But it depends. Remember, everyone is different. Against a team like Watford with Roy Hodgson, who is going to sit, who are going to be a bit more defensive and try to break you, it's a
yeah.
lot harder to ping the balls through the middle of the park because they're not coming out to press you. That
Fair
strategy
comment.
works as
Yeah.
an anti press tactic when a team like Leicester were going to go in for the press, though they haven't really this season, which I don't know what's going on with Leicester. To be honest, they've not been that good. But getting not getting into that right now, but
Well, we're about to finish off, but before we
yeah,
do, just give me your views, Ed, on those. How, I mean, obviously, I mentioned this
mhm,
a little bit in my bit earlier when I talked about the game management, but
yeah.
those last few minutes could have been uncomfortable, couldn't they?
It could have been, and as you touched on earlier, if we go back a couple of years, Arsenal probably come out with 1 point and Watford getting a 95th minute equaliser. But time wasting, the game management was a lot better. The players are a lot more confident. I think the good thing about Ramsdale, I've bashed him a bit, but I'll say he's him waiting for the absolute last second, drawing the Watford players in, then dropping on the ball. It's
His
the
time wasting skills are immense, aren't they,
it is. I think
Ramsdale's?
I like that kind of shithousery when he does it. So he gets
and, and
into it.
and that's where I think when we talk about the lack of cojones, is we have definitely developed. They're a young bunch, but actually, what they are being is the shithousery side of things. We're
Yeah,
wasting
yeah.
time, the right
The dark
players.
arts, as they say.
Time we're falling over when we need to, and I think there was a bit more time wasting from Cedric towards the end of the
It
game, wasn't there?
was,
When
it was.
he
He just
went over with the
collapses.
cramp and then he got up.
Yeah.
But actually, it's those kind of things that take the sting out of the attack, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely, and you need to do that, right? When a team is just scored at the 90th minute, they're gung ho, they're trying to get an equalizer. That's what you need to do. Just lie on the
Were you
ball,
worried
go
though,
down.
Zed? Be honest. Were you worried that they may score? Did you think
No,
this is going to
actually.
be Arsenal all over again, 3-3?
No, no, no. I didn't think that for a moment, actually. The reason is I'm a bit more confident with this Arsenal team now. And I think
Yeah,
and the ball over the top and Ben White making a mistake, that was probably the only real chance of the game, and that came out of a mistake. And Arsenal still, and that's one of the things that I am worried about, Arsenal are still quite high in giving away chances while playing out from
they're
the back.
still a little bit mistake prone,
They
aren't
are.
they?
They're
Yeah,
very mistake prone. I think the Wolves game was also a key one where they scored from a mistake. They're very
yeah.
solid, but it's the mistakes, and that's what's going to happen when you have a defense the age of 22, right?
But luckily, though, Zed, the mistakes are coming when, generally speaking, the game. I know, other than the
No, no,
Wolves
no.
one,
One.
the one that came in it was at the end of the which game was it? Where was it against Brentford, where we gave
Brentford, yeah,
away
yeah, silly
a
goal
goal?
again. Yeah,
Most of the time, those silly goals are coming when we're in a better position, but we've still got to rule them out. I agree.
yeah, absolutely. I think that those mistakes, Arteta, I'm sure, will work on them. It's the lack of maturity from the back line. I think you have to remember that all of these guys are like 22 or 23,
Yeah.
including Tierney, right? That they're not they're experienced, but they're not that Tony Adams level, 30 years of banging their heads against strikers level yet. But I believe they'll get there. Now, just to finish off on that, I think I did find the stat for Lacazette, by the way,
Go on.
and I think that's where we want to touch on in the next segment a bit more. Lacazette, the All Lacazette podcast, as you called it in the prep.
That one's for you, Danny.
Shout out to Danny, big helper,
Danny was giving me his usual today. He was I don't know. He was saying all sorts of things about as is going on about Lacazette and
as
when
always.
yeah, exactly. But he's giving his usual banter. But we love Danny on this podcast. Sorry, yeah. So
Yes,
go
yeah,
on. You
go
were
on.
saying about Lacazette. What?
Yeah,
How many assists has he got
so
this season? Then
he's got 3 goals, as we know,
Mhm.
3 goals, and he's got
Three
7
league
assists.
goals. Three
Three
league
league. Oh,
goals. Yeah,
this is just Premier League. This is just Premier
yeah,
League, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
3 league goals and 7 assists.
Not
So
bad on the assists,
no,
is it?
no, no,
That's not bad.
and that's what shows you what his role in the team is, and I think that's why I was telling you early on that in the second segment I wanted to talk about how Arsenal is setting up from a tactical point of view now. I think that's
Yeah,
probably going to bore you, but for those tactical nerds out there, this is for you, right?
yeah.
So I think when Aubameyang was playing, the options of creating width was very much on the likes of Aubameyang and Saka. So they will go forward with what you call Emil Smith Rowe dropping deeper into that central attacking midfield or a deeper number 8 kind of a role with the likes of Odegaard, right? So that was the setup. But now with Aubameyang having gone, and Lacazette come in as the number 9, what's happening is Martinelli and Saka are making the runs behind, and they're quick and they can take on players, which is excellent, and they create the width. With Lacazette dropping into that role with Odegaard and creating that double pivot to allow for the ball to be received and for
Mm,
what you call creating almost a diamond shape. So what happens is it's a bit different to what they were doing before. I think um, if you look at Statman Dave's video, shout out to him. He does very good analysis.
yeah,
Um, right. So before that, before when Aubameyang was playing, the midfield was almost a U, and then a lot of people were criticizing the Arteta U why he was playing that. But now it's more of a diamond. And I think you've touched on it previously that Xhaka is playing almost like an 8 from the left hand side.
yeah,
Right, he's turning up more in the box with Partey being the single defensive midfielder, who's quietly started to go about doing his work now, right?
yeah,
Which is very,
yeah.
very good for Arsenal. He's finally looking like the midfielder that Arsenal paid money for.
Yes,
So you
yeah,
have to shout out for him. And then Odegaard, his creativity and the pacey wingers is just it's a very, very good plan that Arteta's got working. So I think Lacazette is central to that. He's
he is.
adapted to
Yeah,
Lacazette's strengths rather than focus on his scoring. He's not asking him to do the scoring. He's a number nine, but that's not why he's in the team. He's in his team for his leadership, to get the boys, to get the young lads he's surrounded by, to get them
Yeah.
pumped up by doing the hard work. He's leading by example.
Exactly,
That's
and
the
this is
important
what I
part.
was saying earlier about, and we've talked about it in previous pods about those soft factors, is that he's there for his leadership skills, he's there for leading by example, and yeah, he's not hitting the back of the net as often as we would even want him to, but he's been in the right place in the right time, and two
But
assists
that's not his
today.
role.
That's
His role
exactly,
isn't
yeah,
to hit
yeah.
the back of the net. If
He
he's
I
getting
think I
assists,
think Arteta is probably really pleased with him, and I think post
of
match
course he
he
is.
did
Of course
say
he is. Yeah.
he was pleased. Right, we're going to move on now, Zed,
Yeah, go on.
because otherwise our critics will say is Lacazette all you ever talk about? So
Yes.
well, we do talk about Lacazette a lot, but I think it's relevant that we do because obviously he's fundamental to how the team are playing at the moment. Now, speaking of
Yes.
the way the team are playing at the moment, pleased to say that in our last few games after the loss to Man City, we've been
Mm.
unbeaten. So there was a loss to Man City, there was the draw against Burnley, which is a
Burnley,
little
yeah.
bit of a sort of a red
Disappointment,
herring,
I
if you
think.
want to. It was a
Yeah.
disappointment, it was a red herring, but actually since then we've won 4 games on the trot. We look at our nearest competitors, Manchester United. We'll touch on their loss against the Manchester City earlier today. Their form is again a little bit up and down. So they drew 2, won 2,
Hmm.
drew 1, and then lost against City today. So again,
Yep.
a little bit of a blip. West Ham, again, people are considering us as them as potential rivals for that top 4 position. Uh, um, a loss, a win, a couple of draws, a win, and a loss. So again,
Hmm.
quite up and down, blippy, if you can say that. And
Yep.
Tottenham, the scum, we don't even need to go through their results. They're shit. So if we look up though, and this is what the next segment was going to be about, really,
Yep.
Zed. I want your view on should we. And let's touch on Chelsea for a second because obviously Liverpool are flawless at the moment. Lots and lots
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
wins. Man City, I think, other than the one loss against the the scum some weeks ago, was a little block. But that made the
It's a
title
blimp.
race
It's a blip.
is a little. It made the title race a little bit interesting. However,
Hmm.
let's look at Chelsea. Now Chelsea have lost, sorry, drawn, lost,
Drawn.
drawn, and then they've won their last 3.
They've won the
Now
last three. Yeah.
talk us through their next few fixtures and whether Arsenal, in comparison with our next few fixtures, should we be looking at third place, Ed?
Oh, that's a big call. I think you made that call last week as well, and it's a big call because
I think we have
Chelsea.
to now. Look, we had Danny on some pods a couple of episodes ago, and he talked
Yep.
about those 3 games and 9 points. We've got
Hmm.
those nine points now. We're putting a little run together.
We are. So let me just break it down what Chelsea's next three games are. Now,
Go on.
just before I say this, Chelsea, in terms of squad depth and squad strength, and from a management point of view,
Way
are
superior.
leaps, way
Way
superior, leaps
superior.
and bounds,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Thomas Tuchel is by far one of the best coaches in the world, right?
yeah.
He is a master, tactical master, right? And Chelsea's running now, and their squad is absolutely
Can I just
crazy,
chuck
even
another
with
thing in there as well, Zed?
go on.
They've had James come back into the side as
I
well.
know, I know. From
I
an
should have.
England fan
I
point of
overlooked.
view,
I overlooked him as well for my fantasy team actually because I've got a couple of injured defenders. I should have had him,
yeah,
but I wasn't. I didn't realise he was fit. But sorry, that's a side note. But yeah, what's his? Is James?
Reece
And
James,
that's it. Reece James. Reece James is
yeah,
back now, and he
yeah,
was scoring a lot of their goals because he's
he still
fundamental
is.
to their
He scored
system,
now.
and he scored again. I think did he score an assist? I think yesterday.
I
So
think so. Yeah.
yeah, so let's talk about it in the context of him being back now
I
and
mean,
Chelsea's next few fixtures.
I mean, it's insane getting a player like Reece James back. From an England point of view, for the World Cup prep, I am gassed to have him.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah,
him
yeah,
and Trent being on the plane should be on the plane. By the way,
yeah,
is immense. But anyway, let's not go to that. We'll talk about the England setup when the World Cup comes around. But Chelsea's next games, they're away to Norwich, which I am sorry to say to Norwich fan, but they're going to get smashed,
yeah.
right? Home to Newcastle. Now, Newcastle having a bit of
That's
a
an
resurgent.
interesting fixture, that one, isn't it?
That is an interesting fixture. Now, if you go back, I think the All Gunners podcast episode 2, we were having an argument about who will go down. And I made a call that Newcastle will stay up. I'm
You
looking
did.
pretty good for that, mate. I'm looking pretty good for that.
You are looking good, but have they played? And I know this isn't going to have a difference on their season as a whole, but actually their fixtures have been relatively average. Have they played any of the big boys since their transfer window is shut? I think their games have been mostly, I'll say winnable because obviously it's Newcastle, but
Mhm.
they've not been. I think this will be their first major test, the one that you've talked about with Chelsea. We'll really
Yeah,
see what they're made of, won't we?
yeah. I think that they've played what you call the teams in the lower half of the table, if you will,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But they are putting a run together. They're getting wins, and they look more settled. But again, let's just go back to our main topic, was Chelsea versus Newcastle.
yeah.
Interesting game, but I expect Chelsea to have no problems,
Okay,
right?
that's
They,
that's a call. I mean,
that's no, no.
I,
I think
I,
they won't have problems.
I could see. You've got to remember the context here as well.
Yeah,
Chelsea is still in the Europe. They're still in the
they
FA
are.
Cup as well. Um, so I'm going to go with a draw there. I am. I am
But
going to go with a draw.
it's
I
a
think
Stamford
Newcastle.
Bridge,
Yeah, I
and
know, but I think Newcastle are going to take points off them. I really do.
I
I
don't
think
know,
that.
man. Look,
Yeah.
I respect Eddie Howe for what he's done, for how they recruited, for the players they got in. But the thing is, Chelsea are notoriously hard to break down. And let's say, if they don't play Lukaku through the middle, Kai Havertz, Reece James, and the midfield, I mean, just Conte just runs the pitch, man. Chelsea's squad is far too superior, and
Mm.
Tuchel is far too good of a coach to.
Okay, so you're going for a win on that one. You're
I'm,
going
I'm,
for a
I'm
win.
going for a win. It
Who's
may
they
just
got
be 1
next?
nil. They've
Yeah.
got Brentford next, who I also think, at Stamford Bridge, who I also think they'll win.
Okay, so that's their next three
That's
fixtures.
the next three
You
fixtures.
said so it was Newcastle, Brentford, and who before?
So Norwich, Newcastle, Brentford.
Yeah, that's 9 points,
Right.
isn't it? And then what about
That's fine.
Arsenal then? Who are Arsenal's next three
Okay.
fixtures?
So Arsenal have a bit more of a tougher run in, right?
Yeah,
We've got a home game at the Emirates against Leicester. Now, Leicester have been quite off this season, as I alluded to earlier. They're
yeah,
not playing their usual football, and they've been hampered by injury. I think the defensive line is extremely poor. They've been
yeah.
playing Hamza Chowdhury in defence. I think
That's
he's
right.
pretty. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
and
sure he's a defensive
we
midfielder.
generally have a good sort of history against them, don't
History,
we?
yeah, especially at the Emirates. I think even in the season they won the league, we did the double off them.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think
yeah,
yeah, I'm quietly confident that Arsenal can do a job, but with Madison and Vardy coming back, you never know, man. These guys are class finishers, especially Madison. He just literally
yeah.
shoots from anywhere, left foot, right foot, and I think we were linked with him, but he's
Yeah,
a lot.
Vardy's still a little bit rusty though. I think still a bit early. I mean, generally
Maybe
fires against us, doesn't he?
he
Anyway.
fires. I mean, Jamie Vardy, I'll put any money on him. He'll score against Arsenal because he just does.
Yeah.
But I think for me, if I'm to call it, I'll say I'm going. You know what? I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to say 2-1 to Arsenal there.
Okay. All right. So an
Yeah,
Arsenal win, and
and
then
Arsenal win.
Arsenal have Liverpool then
Liverpool
next
at
after that.
home.
Yeah.
Uh, Unfortunately, I'm going to say we're going to lose 1-0 or 2-0.
Mm,
Right?
you
I
don't
don't
see
think we're
points
there
there.
yet. No,
Yeah.
I don't think we're there yet, man. Liverpool are too good.
Is that at home? Is it?
It is at home, but
Yeah.
Liverpool are just too good, man. Salah makes shit out of nothing, man.
I'm gonna and
Mane's
again
on.
I'm gonna go for a draw there. I am Zed. I really am.
That's a
I
big
think
call. That's a big call.
listen. It's momentum is a big thing in football,
It is. It
and
is.
I think that we will be at home. We'll have our fans. We know what the fans did against Wolves. The
Yeah.
fans will play a big part, and I think you know what. I'd take a draw. I will take
No,
a
no,
draw.
wait. Against Liverpool, I'll take a draw any bloody day.
Yeah,
But the thing is, right? Even with Europe, even with everything, remember, what I'll give you the fact that Liverpool are in every single competition still,
yeah,
right? So they're still in the FA Cup, they're still in a Champions League. But I just think in recent history, we've found it very difficult to break them down,
yeah, yeah.
right? And they've got the edge over us. Next game is against Villa at Villa Park in Birmingham.
Hmm.
So that's a tricky one. That's a really tricky one because Stephen Gerrard is doing some interesting things at Villa. They've been on a very poor run recently. Then they
But
suddenly win against
Coutinho has
Southampton.
been on fire, hasn't he?
He has, and he's the kind of player who thrives on confidence, right? We all know that. We've all seen him do stuff in the Premier League when he's on confident. But I think the this just smashed Southampton, who have been playing very well, 4-0, but they play very open, expansive football. I think away from home, and we've had some cagey games against Villa recently. I remember the Aubameyang freaking winning at the 95th minute, not too far. away from memory, but I think we can get a win there. Again, I'm going to call it. I think it's going to be a big scoring game, but I'm going to call it 3-1 there for Arsenal to win at Villa Park. So
Okay,
that's
that's a big
six
call.
points for me. So for me, I think over the next 3 games, 6 points is realistic. I think Arsenal can get those 6 points.
So
Um,
the answer then is can we get third? Then certainly in the next 3 games, unless anything drastically happens with Chelsea's results, the answer's no. Then
Hmm.
isn't it
The
really?
answer is no, but I think obviously this is football and this is the Premier League, right? Any team can turn you upside down within a second. So it's very hard to call these games. But based on the current run, based on the squad depth, based on the stats, based on what I see, I think Leicester, we can get a win. It's going to be a close match, right? It could go either way, but I think at home, Arsenal could probably get a win if they don't do
Mm,
anything stupid at the back.
yeah.
Liverpool, too hard, and Aston Villa, because of the style they play, I think we can get a win.
No, I mean I'm looking at same-ish. Well, no, exactly the same points, but different fixture-wise.
Mhm,
I think we'll find it generally quite easy against Leicester. I think we'll wipe the
mhm.
floor with them. Um, I think they will be out for revenge because obviously we
They
did
will
them
be.
at their place. But
Yes.
I think we will just do them for quality all around. They're not having a great season. I think the
No, no, they're
hard
not. They're not.
fixture of those three. I mean, I think I'm obviously with you that we'll struggle against Liverpool, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm hoping that a point comes out of that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get any points. So
Mhm.
I'll write that game off anyway. But I think we'll struggle at Villa Park. Um,
Yeah,
I think
you could
that's where
see
we'll
that.
struggle. They've been our bogey team, haven't they? In the
They
last,
have,
especially at Villa Park. Yeah,
yeah, and Emi Martinez just has that thing where he's gonna save bloody everything against Arsenal, isn't he?
yeah.
So,
So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I mean, it'd be magnificent if we did win over at Villa Park, but I wouldn't be displeased. I think the way our season's going, I wouldn't be displeased with a draw out at Villa Park. But I think look, if you want to get into the top four, then absolutely those are the games that
you have to win those
we need
games.
to win. Just like today with Watford, it was one of those games that actually. We've got a resurgence of. There's a new manager out there with Roy
Mm,
Hodgson. Their results haven't been bad. They drew against United
yep.
last week, and in fact, they've beaten United in their other games. So they're
Yep.
not a bad team, and actually, there
No,
were
no.
parts of the game that played well.
Hmm.
However, we got the job done, and I just think that we can potentially do that against Villa, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get something out of the game myself.
No, I don't. I doubt that we'll keep a clean sheet in any of these games. That's what I'm thinking. Leicester are more confident that we'll win, even with the caging game, because they just don't have any defenders. They have no centre
Yeah.
backs, right? So that's where I'm thinking they can win. But the quality going forward is still there for them. Liverpool, I agree with you completely. Villa, I think because of the style they play, they're gonna come at us. They're gonna come charging, and that gives the opportunities for our players to go and try to do something and get the couple of goals that we need because Arsenal, then making those stupid mistakes, have been pretty solid at the back.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, fair point. Sticking with Chelsea, then Zed.
Yep.
Moving on to our next segment now. There was some quite big news this week
Yep.
regards to Chelsea and their ownership, which had a lot of opposition fans rubbing their hands, and that was the obviously the political stuff going on in the world in respect
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
obviously the war in Ukraine and the Russian involvement in that,
Mhm.
and Abramovich's links to Russia and actually how he's almost been forced, his hand has been forced to sell the club. And it
Mhm.
looks as if it's more likely than not that somebody will buy Chelsea Football Club. And one thing we do know, don't we, Zed, about Abramovich is that he has been um, he's changed the face of football
Mhm.
in England, and certainly the
Yeah.
Premier League, in being one of the most generous, and not just generous, because there are many generous owners out there, but actually willingness to just keep on coming back and win. And it's resulted in them actually having some of the most greatest success ever since he has actually taken ownership. I think City are clearly catching up, but they've
Mhm.
just won the Champions League last season.
Yep.
They're current champions of Europe. They're actually current champions of the world, having won the
Yes.
World Club Championship.
Yep.
So Ibrahimovic has certainly had a hand there, Zed, in
Mhm.
respect of Chelsea's success. What I want to know from you is whoever that club goes into the hands of, is, do we see potentially Chelsea returning back to a pre-Abramovich era, or do we see a continue? I mean, they've already got a very, very good squad, but we know that money runs things, doesn't it? And
Yes.
we know that potentially their next ownership may not have that same level of generosity.
Hmm.
How is that going to change things, not just for Chelsea's Ed, but also the teams are in and around
Hmm.
Chelsea? And I may ask you to speak about the end. Will Newcastle end up being the new Chelsea?
Ho,
That's
ho,
another
ho,
red
ho.
herring, yeah?
It is. It is. Okay, so let's start. I think it's a very good point. And first thing first, whatever Abramovich links to Chelsea are, oh sorry, not Chelsea, Russia are, and we sure there are many. He is Russian, but regardless of that point, he has changed the face of English football.
Of
He
course.
brought in that tactic of, or that style of ownership where you inject money into the club, you buy trophies, as a lot of the Chelsea fans have been accused of. I think the opposition chants are, you bought the trophies, as when they say they've won it all. No, you've
Mm,
bought them all, right?
yeah.
That's essentially the counter chant always. But they have, under his stewardship, there's been unprecedented success, 17 major trophies, I think, which is quite insane. And he's been ruthless in his approach. Regardless of who the manager was or what they would achieved in the past, he wouldn't take anything, right? And he's changed the way Premier League works. He was the trendsetter for Sheikh Mansour takeover for Manchester City, and now the ridiculous takeover of Newcastle by essentially Saudi Arabia, right, as a
Yeah,
whole country. So I think
indeed.
he has changed stuff. And to answer your question of depending on what happens, though, the first thing to make clear is, based on the statement that I read, the any loans taken from Abramovich's company to Chelsea are all gone, so they're forgiven. So Chelsea won't be in debt when they start. Because
Yeah, that's an
remember,
interesting point.
Chelsea,
Yeah.
this is a very interesting point because that's very generous of him. Chelsea Football Club actually are in enormous debt to
Yes.
Abramovich, right?
Yes, they are.
They have done everything based on what he's put in. So he's forgiving all of those debts, and they are big debts. I think, one of the biggest. But Chelsea in recent time have been preparing for this, it seems like, because they've got this method of selling players, right? I've touched on it on previous podcasts. Chelsea are one of the best in the business when it comes to selling players. So I think in terms of revenue generation, because of how deep the squad is, the amount of players they have, and the quality of players they have, even in their reserve teams,
Yeah.
they'll be okay for the time being. Even the new owner probably wouldn't have to invest heavily to get them
They've got a good
to be
squad, haven't
stable.
they?
They've
And a
got
great
very good
manager.
squad,
Yeah.
a great manager, good squad. I don't think I see anyone kicking Tuchel out. I think they'll keep Tuchel and they'll keep the management side
Oh,
of
why would you
Chelsea as
kick
they
him
would.
out? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly,
You wouldn't.
right. You keep him there, and he'll probably stay there for a while because it's not like Abramovich style who comes in and fires. They may try to emulate it, and that will be extremely wrong because they'll be getting rid of one of the best coaches in the world.
Yeah.
But what happens is, for the time being, I think for the foreseeable future, I think Chelsea will be fine. How it affects them long term remains to be seen, depending on the owner, how big their purses are, and how much they're willing to spend. In terms of, so that's basically answering question, but not answering question, essentially.
Yeah.
In terms of Newcastle, bloody hell, they've got money, right?
Yeah.
They have. So I think I saw somewhere that Newcastle have more money than all of the other clubs combined, including Manchester City and um, Chelsea. So
Yeah.
that's ridiculous, right? So
I mean,
Newcastle,
Abramovich is on the dole in comparison to the wealth that Newcastle have got. That's how
yeah, I mean it's
vast
it's
they are.
insane.
Yeah.
It's insane, right? So Newcastle will become the next Chelsea and City. Yes, it won't be done overnight, and unless the Premier League comes up with some proper financial fair play regulations, I see them in 5 6 years time just being the Manchester City that they are right now, paying 200 300 million on defense, more than most countries in the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So so unless the way the Premier League runs and the investment, the way it works changes, I see them running away with it very, very easily. Not under Eddie Howe, by the way. That will never happen under Eddie Howe.
No, no, of
But
course. No.
he will lay the foundations. They're going to do some smart business. They're going to get rid of some of their players. They're going to buy more players because they can offer ridiculous wages, right?
Yeah.
And when that happens, they'll have a squad that is able to compete for not just Europe, but for the Champions League, for the Premier League. And that will take about 5 years, just like it did with City. It took them a bit of time to get going, to get the formula right. But now they are by far one of the best run clubs in the world, or not by far, they are the best run club in the world in terms of
Yeah,
how they manage finances. They bloody sold Ferran Torres for a profit to Barcelona, who can't even afford to pay their players. That's
yeah,
that's the kind of business
yeah,
they're able to do. So I don't think there'll be an issue. I think they'll be up there because of the money, unless financial fair play and regulation comes in.
yeah. No, that's a fair answer. I mean, just finally on that one, homing in on Arsenal. Do you think we have anything to worry about? I mean, potentially,
Hmm.
obviously, there's only 4 spots for the Champions League, for
Hmm.
example. Potentially, look, what I would love to see, and I'm sure you would too, is Chelsea go back into averagedom. And it's very, you're right in terms of squad and their depth and their manager at
Hmm.
the moment, but as we know in football, nothing is guaranteed.
Nope.
And wouldn't it, Zed, be fair as well if that were to happen? Because at the moment, being able to you know trump everybody because they've got money, is rendering unfair for clubs that, for example, like ourselves, have a dependency on its own finances.
Hmm.
Um, wouldn't it be great that even if the same happened to Newcastle, that there was an embargo and that actually you had to be self sufficient and dependent on what you make? I just think it would be better all round for football myself. Can you potentially see a time when this could happen?
No. Short
Yeah,
answer. The reason is Premier League is successful because of the money, because of the players, because of the worldwide talent in coaches. Just look around. We have some of the best bloody managers in the world. We had Carlo Ancelotti, a three-time Champions League winner, managing Everton.
yeah,
All right,
yeah,
that just tells you everything.
yeah,
Right. So
yeah,
the money drives the game, unfortunately. I don't think there'll ever be a case. I do see potential in La Liga style, what you call fair pay rules, where you have to have a certain amount you can spend on wages based on your business,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But business can be done any other way, right?
yeah,
Sponsorship deal with Saudi Arabia gives you $3 billion, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
there are ways around it. But yeah, I think the Premier League has to look at it in detail, come up with a plan that all the clubs have to agree to. But remember, Cronkies have been putting in a lot of money recently, right?
yeah.
So, I
In
mean,
in similar fashion to how
mhm,
Abramovich has, but the Cronkies will be asking for it back.
for it back,
That's the only
yeah,
difference.
with
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The tight shits. Look, sticking with finances, and as we
Yep.
move on to our next segment, we know that the club, it was reported last week, wasn't it, that
Mhm.
the club has made financial losses. I know it's not any surprise because obviously there's been a worldwide pandemic which was
Yep.
restricted people coming in to watch games, etc., etc. So there's also been, I think, a 3% ticket increase from next season in
It has,
regards to
yeah.
sort of season tickets, which is
Yes.
unfair because, as
Unfair
with
to the
anything
fans,
in
yeah.
society, it's always the common man that ends up paying for the
Absolutely.
mishaps of anything that's got nothing to do with them. But you
Yeah.
wanted to touch on club finances for a few minutes and how. I mean, look, my interest is, as you know, I stay away from anything accounting and
Yeah.
financial wise. I've never really given a shit about loss and profit as long as the club doesn't go under and as long as
Yeah.
we continue to sign the best players. And that's really all I care about when it comes to Arsenal. I do know a little bit, though, having listening to other pods and other sort of commentary, is that it was no surprise that the club would have made a loss. I think you're going to find most football
Yeah.
clubs have made a loss or will make a loss in this
Yeah.
period. I think next season will probably potentially look a little bit better. I think we've stripped lots off the wage bill, players going out, and there's a lot more sensible people in the room when it comes to wages and decisions around them moving forward. But you wanted to touch on this as well, didn't you, Zed, in terms of talking about that news, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it's to be fair. I think what I wanted to touch on was the unfairness on the fans. That's what I'm more angry about, rather.
Yeah,
Look, with COVID, it was going to be a solution. That was going to be the situation. As you've said, you've summed it up very well, right? Match day revenue, just for the second, as reported on the BBC, fell from 75 million to 3.8 million, which is because there were no fans, right?
yeah, Yeah.
and it's fair. But I don't agree with the fact that they've raised Arsenal ticket prices are already one of the highest in the Premier League,
Yeah, they are in
and then
Europe
they've
actually.
in
In
Europe.
Europe, yeah, yeah,
There you go, right? And now increasing it further, it's just not fair to the fans. I think my moan wasn't about what loss they've made. It's
yeah,
more that they're trying to push that on in the disguise of, yeah, we've made a loss and we're pushing it onto the fan. We're a self-sufficient club, right? That's not fair to the fans. The fans work hard to earn the money. They support the club because they love the club,
yeah,
right? They grew up with the club in some cases, in most cases rather, and it's not fair for them to be footing the bill for something that affected them as much as the club,
yeah.
right? A lot of the fans were very, very affected by COVID, and it's not fair on them to be footing the bill for a club they love because they suffered as well. Yeah, tough shit. They suffered. You're a or £1 billion organization, right? Arsenal's worth nearly 2 billion. Do something. Do better. Do
Do you know what it
finances
feels
better.
like? Do you know what it feels like for me? This
Yeah.
ticket price. I'm with you. I think it's disgusting to be honest with you. Because
Yeah.
3% in the contest is quite a lot of money, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Um, what disgusts me is it almost feels like, right, we're giving you what you want now. The football's better. We're on a winning streak. We're probably gonna, or by the way, I'm not fully convinced, but hopefully, touch wood, that we are going to get in the Champions League next season. And
Hopefully.
on how we're going to reward you guys is because we're actually, I mean, this is how I see it: is that actually in the last 18 months since this, as you've basically, the football has been on the whole atrocious. It's been trashy.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
I mean, the first 3 games of the season, there's been criticisms there around recruitment, around the lack of, I mean, things that we will probably be able to assess in better detail end of the season. Okay, it's
Mhm.
going well at the moment, right? Yeah. But in that period of time since the COVID outbreak has happened, is you should be bloody giving season tickets away for free from what our fans have seen,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
But instead, how you reward us is, oh, okay, we're getting a little bit squeaky clean and we're getting a little bit better and our football's getting better and we're having more consistency and the club is being managed a lot better. Here we go. We'll whack you with a 3% rise in ticket prices. I think it's
It's
disgusting.
insane. With the situation the world is, with inflation, with squeeze on the pockets, fuel rising, energy bill rising,
Absolutely.
football is an escape for people to enjoy, to go out, to have fun. The last thing you want is for those same fans to be unable to afford to go to games. Even if they kept the ticket prices the same, they could have made a lot more money because COVID is gone, right?
Yeah.
Arsenal merchandise, shirts are already very, very expensive. You're
Oh, yeah.
making money
Yeah.
left, right, and center. It just does not seem like a fair thing to do to raise prices for the fans, for the
Yeah.
tickets. I think I love the German model. I love the way other countries do it, where the ticket
Yeah.
prices stay low. The club has to manage their finances better to make money elsewhere, but keeping the attendance, the
Oh,
tickets
but
going,
but but they
that's
do,
what carries
Zed.
the on from me.
Zed, we're talking hundreds of millions when we're talking about Adidas sponsorship
Of
and the money
course,
that Sky give them and other TV entities.
it's
It's
billions, man.
it's billions, and for them to penalise the fans, I have to say, I'm with you. I am with you. It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. It's just not good. That's what I wanted to have a moan about. And let us know in the comments what you guys think as well. I'm sure
Absolutely, yeah. We need to
you
get
all
the
agree.
fans more involved. We need to get our
Yeah.
viewers more involved. Please comment on what you look. Are you going to change your decision to get a season ticket next season? Are you going to boycott the merchandise at the shop? Let us know. Let us know.
Mhm.
Look, let's wrap up on a
Yeah, go
positive
on.
note though, because we've talked about something quite depressing. But you know, it's rare when we have weekends like this where Arsenal win and Manchester United don't just lose, but they get battered.
Well, it's not been rare this season, though, has it? I've been loving this season. They've been atrocious all season.
We've had good moments, absolutely, and it is so nice to see that Arsenal, even before that game, which I thought United would lose, but even before that game, Arsenal just did the business, you know.
Yes.
And yeah, people played before yesterday and whatnot, but we're just doing what's expected. But I mean, how shit are United, Zed? Come on, let's just have
Ah,
it
mate.
out.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to shout out what you call what's his name? Uh, I'm completely forgetting his name now. The pundit, the Man U pundit,
Neville,
goes,
Gary Neville,
no, not Neville. The other guy, the angry guy. What's his name?
Roy Keane.
Roy Keane. That's the one. How can I
How
forget
could you
him? Bloody
forget
hell!
him? Yeah,
Bloody hell! Yeah, but it's late at night now. This is what's happening.
yeah.
But anyway, Roy Keane. I loved the way he broke down the game. He said these players just gave up halfway through the game.
But they did though, Zed.
That,
They did.
that is the funny part.
In those last 10, 15 minutes, I
They
mean,
gave up.
there was a stat of something like 80% percentage around that amount, and in the last 10,
Yeah,
15 minutes, it
yeah.
was disgraceful.
It
And
was absolutely. I don't know how many fans. You know what? I don't feel sorry for them. Let's be very clear,
no
right?
way,
I don't feel
no
sorry for
way.
them.
I mean,
But bloody
my
hell.
phone isn't getting pinged by any United supporters at the moment. I have to say, is
No,
yours?
that's no, nothing. They're quiet. They've been quiet all season. You know what? Other than the first three games, they were very riding very high, right? But it's been absolutely brutal because you can tell none of these players care. They don't want to be there. They don't want to play.
Well,
They just want to take the check and go home.
the news that is being shared even prior to that game, when we're talking about unrest, is that the players allegedly, this is rumor by the way, there's nothing that's concrete that's come out, but the players
Mm.
are now beginning to question whether Maguire should be starting the game.
I don't think he should be.
I mean,
He's had a
neither do I.
he's been terrible.
He's a slab of cheese, as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned.
Maguire was class. Maguire he was doing well. He was, I would consider him one of England's starting centre backs. But right now, his head is not in the game. Man U just seems like a very, very toxic place, and I think he's lost his head. He's just not in there. I don't think he should be captain. I don't think he should be starting. Maybe time away from the game before the
Well,
World Cup. I'm only
Zed,
thinking from England
as
point of
long
view.
as it makes him shit, they should continue to start him because,
Well, shit for United, but for England
yeah,
point of view, I don't want him to play.
yeah. I mean, look, England is a separate conversation, but as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned, for United at the moment, he is doing bits for them, and long may he continue. But I mean, the reason why I touched on that one,
Legendary
Zed, is
captain.
yeah, exactly. The reason why I touched on it is that actually I wanted to make a really nice comparison here, Zed, and get your
Yeah.
views on this, is
Go
because
on.
actually, we've been through a really rough ride at the moment, and I
Mm.
want to say to the listeners, if you didn't catch it, and if you didn't catch it, Zed, as well, is listen to they literally had an argument. The I've forgotten his name now, the Man City pundit, for
Michael Richards.
Micah Richards and
Yeah.
Gary Neville, and
Yeah.
he absolutely. I urge everybody to watch it. He embarrassed Gary Neville with what's going on at United at the moment. He was lost for words. Gary Neville
Yeah.
was, and I
Of course.
generally like Gary Neville. To be fair, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
for a Mank he's all right, but he was lost for words in the commentary. He just
He didn't
the,
know. He didn't know what to
the other
say.
question finally that I want to ask you is, and I heard it on another podcast the other day, so I'm going to slightly plagiarize it, but
Go on.
are United becoming the new Arsenal? It's a good one, isn't it? It's a good one. I think they are,
Oh,
personally. I think they
that is a
are.
good.
Yeah.
To be fair, I'll say this, right? United have never settled since Sir Alex left. Arsenal, I can still see them going somewhere. I think United's mistakes were Ed Woodward. I don't think Ollie takes any of the blame. I don't think the squad takes the blame. The squad building, because Ollie was actually trying to set it straight, similar to
Well,
what
they're
Arteta is
playing
doing.
worse now with Ollie gone.
Because Ollie was doing the right thing. I think people just said, "Oh, Ollie's at the wheel," make fun of him, but he was actually doing something good. I think
Do
people,
you remember when he started? There was something like a game of a run of 23, 24 games where they literally just became this fantastic counter-attacking team. They would
yeah,
just sit back, soak the pressure,
and
and Rashford, and Pogba on the break would just absolutely smash teams up.
yeah, absolutely, and that's why they bought Jadon Sancho because he would fit right into that system. But then they just went and bought Ronaldo, and it's not Ronaldo's fault. Ronaldo's an excellent player. He is one of the best ever to have played the game. He just wasn't the right player for Manchester United. They needed a striker, a hard-working striker playing for the manager. Ronaldo is there for the goals, right? And he has dug them out of holes in the Champions League multiple times, but he was not the player. That's what I see as the impetus for what led to Ollie's downfall, and they'll just do the same circle again. They did the same circle with David Moyes, with Louis van Gaal, with Mourinho, with Ollie. Whoever comes in next, Ralph Ragnick ain't staying. I think he's going to be gone, not even be there for 2 years. Pochettino comes in, he'll have the same thing. He's struggling at PSG with the same kind of egotistical
Yeah,
locker room. The reason why Arteta, now I'm bringing it on to Arsenal full circle, is the reason why Arteta did what he did with Oba, with Ozil, with Socrates, all of these old players who had these egos. He got rid of them. He says, I don't need you in this club if you're gonna have that attitude. Attitude, behaviors matters, because how you carry yourself, how you integrate with the team spirit is what leads to good games.
yeah.
No one in the City squad can say shit to Pep. He will rip him a new one, right? That's what it should be. This is what's happening in Arteta's squad. He's the boss. Everyone knows he's the boss. At Man United, everyone's the boss.
And long may that continue, because the more they play shit, the easier
Better for us.
chance for us. And we celebrate. I don't often celebrate a City win, except for when they're playing United in the scum. So long may that continue. And yeah, I'm in agreement with you there, Zed. I think absolutely there's too many egos there, which has
Yep,
resulted in them becoming unmanageable. I,
unmanageable,
I
toxic.
want to. I want to finish on that note, Zed. But I
Yep,
want to thank you again for being as brilliant as you always are every week.
oh mate,
We are working on getting another guest with us for next week, so
yes.
you listeners don't be bored by just ourselves for an hour. But Zed, do you wanna plug your Twitter, and I'll plug mine, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks for hosting. It's good to get a break from hosting, and you've done a fantastic job, honestly, of hosting, giving me a break just to talk about more about Arsenal, right? But everyone, you can follow me on Z_TAGP on Twitter. Uh, they'll be on the main page for the video, so you can copy it there. Reach out to us if you want to be on the All Gunners podcast. Again, as I say every week, it is for the All Gunners, and we'd love to hear your stories and your love for Arsenal.
Brilliant. Thank you, Zed. Brilliantly done. And you can catch me on Twitter at Harry Kanu, and Kanu is Khanu. I'm glad I've actually got it right this week, because I've actually got it in front of me. Brilliant, guys. Listen, you have been brilliant, Zed, and thank you very much, guys,
Same
for
to you, mate.
listening. Please interact with us in the comments. And again, as Zed says, if you want to join us, you know where we are. Contact us on Twitter or on YouTube. Leave a comment for us, and we'll contact you, and we'll get you on as soon as possible. I've been Harry. Zed's been
I've been
Zed.
Zed.
Love you all, guys. See you on the next one.
Okay, take it. Bye.